Here we are discussing chapter 8 on decision. Now, Napoleon Hill talks about the fact that great leaders make decisions quickly and change them slowly, right? Or if at all. So, why is that? Why can they make decisions? So, one of the reasons why, of course, is because they know what they want. And it's so much easier to make a decision if you already know what it is that you truly want and that you want to materialize in your world. But another reason why great leaders are exceptional decision makers is because they understand the natural laws that govern our universe. And, there are 7 of them, but some people say that there are 11 or 12, but you'll find that these 7 are the main laws, and those other few kind of fall under subsets of one of these laws. So I'm going to go through them and help you understand why it is that you can use these laws to use your decision-making capabilities at a much higher rate. How can I make decisions better, quicker, and more effectively? So let's go through them. The first law, these are in no particular order, so let's just talk about them. So number 1 is the law of vibration. And some people might know this as the law of attraction, and that's an instance where the law of attraction falls under a subset of the law of vibration. So the law of vibration dictates that everything is moving, everything vibrates in this world, in this universe. Nothing is at rest. So our bodies vibrate, our thoughts vibrate, our pens vibrate, everything vibrates. And the speed at which it vibrates dictates the matter that you'll see. So for instance, take paper. It used to be a tree, and it changes vibration, it changes its frequency, and we turn it into paper. So it's vibrating at a different frequency, and now paper or tree turns to paper. So it's the same as our thoughts. If we think a thought and we think about it more and more and more, and as Napoleon Hill says, the dominating thoughts of our mind, if we have a thought that dominates our mind, we're concentrating on it, we're focusing on it. The more we concentrate on a thought, the more concentrated it becomes and the more we can see it in our world. So when we have a thought vibration, we get onto that frequency of what it is that we want, and we harmonize with it, right? We harmonize on that frequency, and then we begin to attract, through the law of attraction, other things that harmonize or are on that frequency with that thought. So if I want $1 million, I begin thinking about ways to bring $1 million into my life, and the law of vibration and attraction will respond to that and if I'm on that frequency, it will harmonize with me on that frequency, and I will attract those things that are on that same frequency. Now, if I want $1 million, but I don't think it's going to happen, and I think, oh, my bank account is at zero, how am I going to get $1 million? I will stay on that lower frequency, still attracting to me the $0 in my bank account. So I have to be aware that when we're in this law of vibration and we're using it to our advantage, that we have to ignore all the stuff that isn't harmonizing with what it is that we want. So if I want prosperity, I cannot be thinking about debt. Okay. So the law of vibration cannot lie. It cannot lie. So it's telling you through your results exactly where you stand in your thoughts and your dominant thoughts of your mind. So it's really helpful. Now we have the second law is the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. Now this one, because everything vibrates on a different frequency, like I mentioned with the paper, right? So it's at one frequency and the form of pulp, as it were, the wood pulp. And then on another frequency, it is in paper. But what happens is that energy is. So that same tree turns into paper. And then it changes form. We don't lose the tree. it changes form into paper. So what this law of perpetual transmutation is that everything is energy, and energy can never be created nor destroyed. So we have to understand that energy is always changing form, just like the wood to the paper. It's just like ice to water to steam to vapor. All of those things, there's the same amount of water in this world, but it changes form. And we have to understand that our thoughts are also energy and they change form too. So if I want a sandwich or if I'm hungry and I thought, oh, what should I have for lunch? I think, I'm going to have a sandwich. I resonate with that idea and harmonize with it and get on that vibration of a sandwich. And I begin to do the things that need to happen in order for a sandwich to appear. Either I make it or I buy it, right? So my thought turned into a sandwich. And that's the law of perpetual transmutation in the creative process in a nutshell. The next one is the law of rhythm. And this one means that everything just ebbs and flows. Okay, just think about the ocean. It's ebbing and flowing, going in and out, and everything circulates. Think about the seasons, right? Think about the earth rotating on its axis. Think about the sun rising and setting, and the moon having its waning and waxing, right? Think about our blood circulating through our body. Think about the breath, the oxygen going through our blood. Now think about dollars circulating through the economy and dollars circulating in your bank account. Money doesn't do any good sitting on a shelf or under our mattress. If we use the money, we bring into motion this law of rhythm, and we begin to trust that if we let it go, it'll come back. And that is where great decision makers are not afraid to hold or to spend money, is the fact that they're not concerned about holding on to something because they know more is coming back. And the law of rhythm tells them this. Okay. The other thing that you can think about with the law of rhythm is think about moods and think about if something is not going well currently, but know that because there's this law of rhythm, things will even out and things will come back to where you want them. You will get into a better mood. You won't stay low forever, right? There's always these waves going up and down. I like to think of sine waves, right? You go up and down, up and down, up and down. And once you can kind of temper this and slow your minds down and begin to respond rather than react, those sine waves they're not so big. So the ebbs are not so huge and the dips are not so low. And so what happens is that they're smaller and more uniform. And so the law of rhythm is something that we can use to our advantage every single day. The next one is the law of relativity. And this just means that everything is relative. Everything is compared to something else. Everything is big or small compared to something else that's bigger or smaller or larger or daintier, right? So an elephant, for instance, is only big as compared to a mouse. And a mouse is small compared to an elephant, but is big compared to an ant. So we have to understand that something that is big to me might be small to you. Something that is expensive to me might be inexpensive to you, right? So we have to understand that there is this law of relativity, not just in our own lives, but in everyone's life and going on within this universe. And so what this law can do for decision making is the good decision makers can understand that it's only big because my current concept thinks it's big. So if I want to earn, we'll just say $1 million, my current concept might think, wow, $1 million is a lot of money. I need to get to the point where $1 million is just the same as $10. So what do? We begin to emulate other people who think $1 million is small. Like Bob Proctor says, make $1 million look small, right? So it's relative. Everything is relative because it's compared to something else. Next, we have the law of polarity. Now, this one just means this is also the law of opposites. Everything has an opposite, hot, cold, up, down. There wouldn't be an up without a down. or a hot without a cold, or a right without a left. And the really important thing about this is that the universe is balanced. There wouldn't be a North Pole without a South Pole, right? So we have to understand that there is this balance within. And so if there is a question, there has to be an answer. And if there is a problem, there has to be a solution. In fact, we can go one step further and say, there wouldn't even be a question if there weren't an answer. There wouldn't even be a problem if there weren't a solution. So understanding this law of polarity is really helpful when we're coming up against something that seems like a big obstacle. We can stop and slow down and say, look, there's the problem. I know there's a problem, but within the problem, there is also a solution. And the other thing that really helps with the law of polarity is that if something seems really, really bad, there has to be the same amount of good within it. Bob Proctor uses the example of one time he was in a cab and he had the manuscript of his book, You Were Born Rich, and it was all finished. He didn't have his name on it. It was just handwritten in a folder. And he left it in a cab. And he had no way of recovering it except for to rewrite it. And his wife asked him, why aren't you more upset about this? And he said, well, this is so bad that there's got to be so much good in it. And this book he went on to publish it, and it went on to earn him millions and millions of dollars. And so he understood this law of polarity. And so he wasn't reacting to the situation, which could really upset some people, losing your entire manuscript. But he was able to respond to the situation and apply this law and think about it in a different way, change his perception. The next law is the law of cause and effect. Ralph Waldo Emerson calls this the law of laws. This just says that every action has an equal reaction, right? If I clap my hands, a sound will come. If I clap louder, if I hit my hands together louder, the sound will be louder. If I hit them harder, the sound will be louder, right? Nothing happens by accident. And I think that's something that we really have to pause and think about. There is always a cause to something and always an effect. So if you want something to happen, don't wait for a maybe something's going to happen. You have to put a cause out there in order for the effect to show up. And so one of the best things that decision makers can use this law for is to understand that the more causes we put out there, the more effects come back to us. Okay. And then we have the law of gender. This one might be frustrating to a lot of people, and that is because there's a natural gestation period for everything. Think of a carrot seed. There's 35 days before it turns into a carrot and you can harvest it. A human baby, there are 9 months. You have to wait between conception and birth. Now, this natural law of gestation law of gender is really something that we need to understand and trust. This is where trust comes in, and understanding that, okay, I planted this seed, it's coming. And one of the things that we really have to focus on, especially when this goal that we want is so big, we have to trust even more. You know, people talk about manifestations a lot and understand that there's instant manifestation. Well, the only way that there's instant manifestation is that if you already know it's a major possibility. So a lot of this whole part of the law of gender is us getting into harmony with the idea that what I want is already here. And it just so happens that it's harder to do when things seem bigger, when the stakes are greater, right? So if I want to look for a penny, I want to find a penny. Well, yeah, there's billions of them out there, so it's not that big a deal. But when you say I want to manifest $1 million, all of a sudden the stakes grow. And so the law of gender really has a lot to do with our belief structure and how much we believe that what we ask for, we have already. There's also a part of this law of gender that's important to understand. And we talked about the stick person back in chapter 4 in autosuggestion, that there is a male and a female part to everything. So I want you to think the stick person really quickly and think of the conscious mind as the male part of our mind. We plant the seed in our conscious mind into our subconscious mind, which is the female part. And the subconscious mind works with infinite intelligence and moves through our body and does the action reaction thing in the universe. And that is how it comes to fruition. So understand that there is a male and a female part of our minds. And there's also a male and female part of what we do. And when we are constantly just in our conscious mind and not believing and knowing that everything is going to happen, these natural laws within our subconscious mind, that does the work, then we are in masculine action all the time, right? And that's like, I have to do something. I have to force something. That is being in masculine energy. But to be in feminine energy is to trust and to be in faith that these natural laws occur, the natural progression of the creation cycle, the creative process works, and trust and believe in that. And that is where the law of gender really helps us. So I hope this helps you clarify some of the natural laws of the universe and understand how you can use them in your decision-making abilities and to just bring more understanding and peace